Hi, I'm Debbie and welcome to Book and Bujo. I'm so glad you're here. Now that we've made it halfway through the year, how am I doing on my top 10 book series that I wanted to read this year? I have my handy dandy cheat sheet here. So the top 10 series from the video I posted in January, and I will leave a link to that up in the cards. The first one was the Runes series, and that is by Edna Walters. It's a Norse mythology based romance, and it is super fun. You have Valkyrie, you have the Norse gods, you have the Fates, and you have normal high schoolers that turn into other things. There's immortals, shapeshifters, dragon shifters, and just it's a lot of fun. So it is a 10-book series with one novella, which the novella, it's almost like a deleted scene from one of the books. So you can read it or not, kind of up to you. It also has a couple of other stories from the other person's perspective. So that was kind of fun as well. But yeah, so 10-book series. I did complete all 10 and the little novella. So I'm very excited about that. I started that in either end of 2021 or the beginning of 2022, somewhere in there, and so I finally got that finished. And none of the books are all that long, and I just spread them out a little bit. So the second series that I wanted to read is the Slip series, and that is by David Estes. I did read the first book, Slip, last year, and I still need to get to Grip and Flip. I have not read those yet. And then the Percy Jackson universe, and this is by Rick Riordan, and there's 36 books total in this series. So I still have 16 books left in that series. I have read one. I read the first book in the Trials of Apollo series, and so I have 16 more books left in that series. So next up is Of Cinder and Bone. I did read 2 of those books last year, and I still have 3 left. I have not continued with that yet this year. Next is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I read the first book last year and I have not continued yet, so I still have 2 more books, and I think there's a short story collection in that series as well, so I still have those left. And then we have the Bound and the Broken series. So I did read 2 books last year, so that was The Exile, or The Fall, which is the first novella, and then the first book of Blood and Fire. And then this year I read The Exile, which is a novella, and Of Darkness and Light, which is the second book. So The Exile comes after the second book, so it's kind of book 2.5. So I've read 4 in the series so far, and there's 1 more that's already been released, and then there's a novella and at least 2 more books, I believe. Probably a novella that goes in between each of those. So there's still at least 1 more that I need to read, that then I will be up to date with that series. And then we have the Serpent and Dove trilogy by Shelby Mahurin. So I did read the first 2 books. I think I read them both last year. If not, it might have been 2021 for Serpent and Dove, and then I read Blood and Honey last year. And so I still have Gods and Monsters this year. Hopefully I get to it. And then we have the Brown Sisters trilogy by Talia Hibbert, and I did read the first one, Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I still have 2 more in the series. I have not continued yet. And then the Spellslinger series by Sebastian de Castell. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 12 books in that series, and I have not started it yet. I think I own the first 2 books in the series, so I really need to get on those. I just have not done it yet. And then number 10 is The Memoirs of Lady Trent by Marie Brennan, and that is, I believe, 6 or 7 book series, and that one I really want to read, and for some reason I just have not gotten to it yet. So we're getting there. All of the white squares are ones that I've read. All the empty ones, of course, are ones I still need to get to. So what have I been doing instead of reading these book series that I said I wanted to read? Well, Here's another little handy cheat sheet. Series I have started instead of continuing those. So I did start The Reckoners, which is by Brandon Sanderson, and Steelheart is the first book. I did read that one. It was super cute, and I will continue with that series eventually. And then I also read the prequel of The Ashes of Averin, so Prelude to Ashes by Tiago Abdallah. I own the first book, A Touch of Light, I believe, and I have not started that yet, but it is on my list to read this year. I started the Dragon Gods series, and that is The Gate of Air, and that was by Risa Nelson, and I would like to continue with that series because it's very interesting. The Frith Chronicles, which is right now is on Kickstarter, and I will try and leave the link below if I can find it again. That one's on Kickstarter, so if you want to check out a really cool hardcover for that book, check it out there. And that's by Shami Stovall, and that one was really good. I would be interested in continuing that series. I also started The Monk and Robot, which is the first book, or the Monk and Robot series by Becky Chambers, and I did read the first book, A Song for the Wild Built. Mags and Biddy by Eliza Watson. I may or may not, I really enjoyed this one, so if I happen to get a copy of the second book, like if my library gets it or something, then I will read it. If not, then I'm not going to go out of my way to find it. But it was really good. It's How to Fake an Irish Wake. It was adorable. Like I said, I did finish start the Trials of Apollo series. So that one I believe is a four or five book series. And I will finish that one. That's Rick Riordan because it's part of the Percy Jackson universe. The Eldest Curses, I did just start the first one of that, and that's by Cassandra Clare. I believe that was the Red Book of Magic. Yes, and then The Lost Book of White is the second one, and that one is on my TBR to read this month. A Veil of Entropy, and it's a short, the book I read was a short story that was part of that series, and that's by Paul Mouchet. And I may or may not continue that, just depends on how things go this year anyway. Riven World, which also I think the Kickstarter for Dragon Mage just ended, but if it's possible to jump on there and take part of that, I'll try and leave the link down below for that too, because that is an amazing book. That was a 5-star, definitely, and that's by M.L. Spencer. I can't wait to read the second book. And then we have the Winnowing Flame series, and the first book is The Ninth Reign, which I read for the Howling Pack Book Club, and that's by Jen Williams, and that was really good, 4.5 stars, and I will definitely be reading that, continuing with that series. Then I did read Angel and Spike Volume 1 by Brian Edward Hill, and so this one it's the first in the Angel and Spike series, but it's the third volume in the Angel series. So I started a series, but yet continued one at the same time with the same book. And then the Chaos of Foxes series, and the first book was For Fox's Sake, and it's a reverse harem fox shifter series, and that's by Emma Dean, and that was actually interesting. I'm most likely continue that one if I can get the second book. And then the Croft and Tabby series, which was Pox U, was the first book that in the series that I read, and that's Brad Magnarella. And I do have the second book of that series as well, so I'll most likely read it. It's really cute. It's a paranormal mystery. And then we have The Elf Queen by J.M. Curl. And the first book was Bow Before the Elf Queen, and I will definitely continue with that series. It was so good. I really enjoyed it. And then the Edgewood series, and the first book was Edgewood, and that's by Karen McQuestion, and that one was a free borrow on Hoopla through my library, and that was really cute. It's kind of a upper middle grade YA. I think it's considered YA. I believe they're in high school, but it reads a little younger, but it was really cute. And then Dragon Reign by Cadence Connor. And the first book in that series is Reign of the Dragon Queen, and that one was really interesting, and I will most likely continue that as well. And then we have Spice Road by Maya Ibrahim, and I read the first book. This one, again, if I can get to the second book, I will definitely read it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to find it. It was good, but not amazing. Mary Poppins, the first book by P.L. Travers. I will definitely be continuing with the series. I think there's 4 books in the overall series, and the books are really short. They're under 200 pages, but it's just cute, and it's nostalgic and fun, and yes, I've watched all the Mary Poppins movies. The one with, was it Emma Thompson and Tom Hanks, where it's the story of P.L. Travers and Disney getting the rights to use Mary Poppins, so Yeah, those are good movies too if you want to check them out. And then we have the Fated Saga, and I read the first book in that, and that was Awaken Heirs of Magic by Rachel Humphrey Quinn. And then the last book a series that I started this year was The Last Hours by Cassandra Clare, and that was Chain of Gold. And I will be continuing with that because that's part of my Shadowhunter read-along, so I will definitely continue with that series through the end of the year. And hopefully, I think we're done by the end of this year, unless another book comes out. But I think that series is done. Book of the Ancestor. I read Red Sister by Mark Lawrence, and this month I will be reading Gray Sister, and so then I'll read the third one in August. And then Under the Northern Sky, I'm currently reading The Wolf, which is the first book in that series by Leo Carew. And then Courts and Kings series, I am currently reading Court of Nightmares, and that is by K.A. Knight. And that one's a book club pick as well as The Wolf. Okay, series I continued, instead of reading the series that I wanted to read, I've continued these ones. And that is, well, I did continue the Bound and the Broken series. I did read the next two in that, so that was on my series list, so that's good. And then I have been, of course, going through the Malazan Book of the Fallen series, and I've read books 1 through 7 so far. I think there's 10 in the series that Stephen Erickson wrote, and so we should be done with that by the end of the year. I am currently reading book 4 in the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan, so I'm on the Shadow Rising, and that's part of the Wheel of Time read-along. And then the Discworld, Around the Disc in 800 with Literary Diversions. We are reading all of the Discworld books, and so far I've read the first 12, and so this month I will be reading the next 2, which I believe are Small Gods and Lords and Ladies. And I did read a novella in there too, so technically I've read 12 and a half. And then we have, for the Cosmere read-along, I've been reading the Brandon Sanderson books, and that's the Stormlight Archives, and I've read the first 3 of those. I've also read Edge Dancer, which is the second 2.5. It comes in between Words of Radiance and Oathbringer. And then I've also continued with the Elantris series, so I read Elantris, The Emperor's Soul, and Hope of Elantris. I did continue with the Saga graphic novel series, so I've read the first 3, and I think I started that last year, so I read 2 of them this year, so I'm up to the 4th one. That's by Brian K. Vaughan. I'm continuing with reading through Buffy the Vampire Slayer graphic novels by Jordi Belair, and I've read volumes 4 and 5 this year, and so I'm up to Willow, so that will be the next one that I read. And then the Brandon Sanderson special projects, I have read the first 2, so Trust of the Emerald Sea and Frugal Wizard's Handbook to Surviving Medieval England. Yes. If I can find the 3rd one, then I will get that one. My library and Hoopla had the first 2, so I'm hoping one of those will get this 3rd one in so I can read that this year as well. And then I did continue one series that I had started last year, and that's the Gateway Trackers by E.E. Holmes, and that one is a really fun paranormal mystery series. Another freebie from Hoopla that was in June? I think it was in June. It's the Dark Universe series, so I read the first 2, and there's 3 books in that series, so I will definitely finish that one up. And then I continued with Alice in Wonderland with the second book, which is Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. And then I got to the second book in Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. And I think there's a couple well, they're kind of novellas anyway, lengthwise, but I think there's a couple of short stories in there too that I haven't gotten to, but I will hopefully pick those up. And then I did just finish the second book in the Winterhouse, Secrets of Winterhouse trilogy by Ben Gooderson, so I have 1 more left in that, and so I should be able to finish that one this year. There are also series that I most likely won't continue with. If it happens to come up, I find it fits with a prompt or whatever, I may, but most likely won't. And that's Inkworld. I did read the first one, and that's by Cornelia Funk. If I happen to see it, then I will read it, but for the most part I probably won't continue with the series. I thought it was interesting and it was good. I actually think I enjoyed the movie a little bit better on that one. And then the other one is Everflame. I did read the first book, which was called Everflame, and that's by Dylan Lee Peters. It just, yeah, the writing style just didn't flow well together for me. I didn't see how it came together, so I won't continue with that one. I started Lily Dawn FBI series, and I did read the first book in that, which is still alive, and it's by Ava Strong, and I really enjoyed the first book, but the kind of like that, the crime series in that I enjoy occasionally, but it's not my favorite genre, so I'll read it if something comes up. Like this one was a free Hoopla through my library, but I also got it free on Amazon, so I was able to kind of read while I listened, and that was really fun, but it's not my typical genre, so I probably won't continue with that one. So series I've actually finished this year, even though they're not on my list, but I did finish some instead of reading the ones I'm supposed to be reading. So I did finish the Into the Drowning Deep by Myra Grant. I read Into the Drowning Deep last year, and then I just read Rolling in the Deep last month, so I did finish that one. The Dark Artifices series by Cassandra Clare. The First Law trilogy, I did finish that by Joe Abercrombie, and so now I'm going to be starting in with Best Served Cold, which is the fourth book in the First Law world. So I'm continuing with that series, but I did finish that trilogy. And then I already mentioned the Rune series that I finished. I did finish The Whisker Sisters by Miss Patty, and that is translated from French, and it is super cute. It's their children's books. I actually like the second one better than I did the first one, surprisingly, because I wasn't planning on continuing with that series because I thought the first one was good. I gave it 3 stars, but it wasn't anything special. But the second one was much better. I liked it. It had a little bit more spooky vibes to it. It reminded me of the Bears in the Night. Yeah, reminded me a lot of Bears in the Night with the Bernstein Bears, the same kind of vibe and style. So that was fun. And then we have the Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. I also finished this year. So that is what I've been doing instead of reading the book series that I said I wanted to read. So hopefully this will help me get back on track and read the actual series that I want to complete this year, or at least get to another couple of the books. So out of the top 10 series that I said I want to read, I definitely want to at least get to the next book in the Slip series. I would like to read one more in the Percy Jackson series, because I did just get the, I had pre-ordered The Sun and the Stars. So I pre-ordered the 2 that were coming out this year. One already came out, and there's one that's still coming out, I think, in September. And I do want to get to those, but I gotta get through some of these others first. So I would like to get through another couple of those. So the next Magnus Chase book and the next Trials of Apollo, if possible. And then I really, really, really want to continue and complete. I would like to complete the Of Cinder of Bone series, because I really like them. I like Clone and Dragons. Come on. Dragons coming back in the world in this day and age. Like, oh, it's exciting. It's super interesting. But for some reason, I just keep putting it off or forgetting about it, which is weird because I really enjoyed the first 2 books. I would definitely like to at least get to the next book in the Poppy War. I'm definitely going to get to the next book in the Bound and Broken series, so I will read Of War and Ruin this year. And I only have 1 book left in the Serpent and Dove series, so I have to get to that. There's only 1 book left. And I would like to at least get to the Brown Sisters trilogy, finish both of those, because they're quick and easy reads as well. If I don't get to Spellslinger or Memoirs of Lady Trent, I'm okay with that. I haven't even started them yet. I would almost rather wait on those and try and complete a couple other series that I'm almost done with instead. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and helping me not feel so guilty about not completing all the series that I'm trying to complete this year. But please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other videos from me. But I will also leave linked down below for you the 10 book series that I want to complete video, so you can check that one out and see how excited I was to read these and how I am still very excited to read them. I just, for some reason, am not prioritizing them, but I need to. So again, thank you so much for joining me, and welcome if you are new, welcome back if you've been here before, and I can't wait to see you again in my next video. So until then, keep reading. Bye!